All right. Testing, testing, testing. We are live. Thank you so much if you have made it thus far on the Chautauqua. We've got a few books in the books. What up, Mr. Carrot? Just chilling another day. Probably won't be streaming very long. Kind of hard to stay motivated. Actually, it's not a motivation factor. I just kind of to be totally honest, I had some edibles last night while I was watching this new TV show. I was watching this new TV show called From. It's really interesting. It's I'm in the second season. It's starting to kind of go downhill, which typically is the way most TV shows, especially nowadays, go because they just kind of it's drama, 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 and there's no payoff. There's more questions are raised than answers answered, right? Just like the Fallout TV show. Perfect modern example, right? Raise more questions, don't answer anything. Yeah, getting bored. I totally feel that too. Yeah. But the weather is getting nice. I need new skateboard wheels as the weather is getting nicer so I can go skate and get speed. I had an interesting dream that I went to go, or no, actually, I went to go skate and I couldn't land anything because it felt so stiff from the winter. Shake off the winter rust. I want to learn some new guitar songs. I want to learn some Mississippi John Hurt, and I found the perfect video on YouTube to help guide me through that. And then I also need to get some reading done sometime this week for the next book review. I got to get back into the book review swing. So every first of the month, in case you didn't, for those who don't know, every first of the month, Beagle Eye Visions always has a new book review. So we are on page 40 of Last of the Hippies. We left off with a Ronald Reagan quote. I'll probably say that to start off again. And yeah, thanks again so much if you made it this far. Sea of Thieves just got a new update, or is getting a new update. I think we just got a new update. The third act of this season just popped up finally. But I honestly don't care. I have not cared at all. I love Sea of Thieves, but with the last Act 2 of this season, whatever season we're on, Act 2 is kind of disappointing. Sounds like fun. I need to get back into the seas. Took a long break. Yeah, I've been kind of taking a break too. We had a lot of fun during the double EXP weekend. We sank at least 5 ships during double EXP weekend, and that's like minimum. We sank more than 5 ships for sure. But yeah, I mean, it was decent. But let's get back into it. Knock out some pages of the Chautauqua, the modern day Chautauqua, and maybe I'll live stream some Gex. I do want to complete some levels. We got to Gex 2 on the Gex trilogy in that series. Yeah, I need to. Me and Supersonic have been grinding Fortnite too, trying to beat that battle pass. And I re-downloaded the finals, trying to beat that battle pass. So it's been a whole lot of grinding. Yeah, Carrot, you've been gone, man. We need to grind. But anyway, so this is page 40 of Last of the Hippies by Penny Rimbaud. Let's get back into the grind. This is a quote from Ronald Reagan. It says, "I'm very proud to be called the pig. It stands for pride, integrity, and guts." What a loser, Ronald Reagan. You freaking nerd, Ronald Reagan. By the end of the 60s, throughout the Western world, the people had returned to the streets. The dream was cross-fading with the social nightmare. In France, the government was almost overthrown by anarchist students. In Holland, the provost made a laughingstock of the conventional politics. In Germany, Baader Meinhof revenged itself on a state still run by aging Nazis. In America, peace became a fierce battleground against war. Yeah, and like I said, this book was written in 1982, and what is going on in America right now? Peace became a fierce battleground against war. Yep, yeah, we're just launching nukes and calling it, yeah, this is an action to peace. I've already ranted about that on the last Chautauqua. I'll keep it chill this time around. In Northern Ireland, the Catholics rose up in demand for civil rights. In England, colleges and universities were occupied and embassies were stormed. Yeah, again, just like what was stormed a few years ago. The White House got stormed. What happened with that? People everywhere calling for a life without fear, a world without war. They were demanding a freedom from the authorities, who for years they had dismissed as almost non-existent. The system, for far too long, had it all its own way. However, amongst the people themselves, a long-standing animosity has become evident, the conflicting interests of anarchism and socialism. From the mid-19th century, when Marx first forwarded his ideas, anarchists and socialists have clashed, sometimes violently, over their very different definitions of freedom. At the beginning of the 20th century, following the Russian Revolution, which anarchists had done much both to bring out and to win, the socialists with whom they had joined forces not only prevented them from playing a part in the new state, but actively and violently silenced them. In the 30s, anarchists and socialists fought against each other during the Spanish Revolution, in which they had supposedly joined forces to oppose fascism, in the late 60s, French anarchists were in a position, given the support of the socialist unions, to overthrow the government, but the unions backed off and the revolt collapsed. In countless other less grand scenarios, the pattern had been repeated, and still continues to be repeated to this day. Anarchists reject Marxist concepts as dictatorship by the working class, which they see as being no better than the dictatorship by the ruling class. To the anarchist, all government and any government is oppression regardless of who is in control of it. To anarchists, all government and any government is oppression regardless of who is in control of it. Yes, that is a fact. Absolutely. I just had to reread that, make sure, that was the truth. Yes, that is absolutely true. Government is oppression. It is control, because when you break the word down, govern the mental capacity. Governare mens mentes in Latin, to control the mind. Governmental, to control the mental capacity. It's that simple. The anarchist revolution that we want transcends the interest of a single class. It envisages the liberation of all humanity, which is at present enslaved, either economically, politically, or morally. Enrico Malatesta. Hope I pronounced that name correctly. Getting to page 42, okay? Anarchists believe that it is the right of the individuals to make their own decisions in life, and that absolutely free choice is essential to any real freedom. They reject all forms of government on the grounds that a governed society is a society in chains. It is inevitable that socialist ideas of organization and centralization should cause friction, since both are a form of control, and control to an anarchist is slavery. Yes, so true. Socialism, like its supposed enemy, capitalism, is just another face to an age-old character, greed. Ideological disagreement aside, the movement for change in the late 60s continued unabashed. Anarchist, socialist, activist, pacifist, working class, middle class, black, white, one thing united them all. A common cause, a universal factor, a shared flag, good old rock and roll. It was at that time that Woodstock in America and the Isle of Wight in Britain created a tradition of rock music that had now become part of our way of life, the music festival. Free music, free space, free mind, at least that, like once upon a time, is how the fairy story goes. Yes, and exactly how the fairy story goes, and the fairy story continues to be told to this day. This is exactly why I do not like music festivals, okay? I've been an artist, I've played music festivals, music festivals where I've gotten paid money, I've played music festivals where I've gotten paid merch, I've played music festivals where I've gotten free merch, I've played music festivals where I've gotten discounted merch, and they're all a fucking money grab, they're all a fucking money scheme. I don't care which music festival you go to, whether it's the Gathering of the Juggalos, whether it's Bull Bash at Skatopia, Backwoods Blowout at Skatopia, whether it's Warped Tour, Riot Tour, Bonnaroo, Burning Man, pre-Burning Man over at UPS next to Skatopia. All these music festivals are money-grabbing fucking scams, dude. I'm totally fucking sick of all these music festivals. Granted, Bull Bash is kind of cooler, but, like Bull Bash had a guy swinging a gun around, had a drunk guy swinging a gun around, as per usual. The good artists that deserve to get paid don't, and the artists that should get paid, the professional artists that deserve to, at the very least, get a good slot, right? Get a guaranteed slot at the bill, if you're on the bill, if you're playing the music festival. Some of these bands that deserve a good slot and deserve respect don't get any of it, and most of the bands that don't deserve respect, that are just satanic, self-indulgent losers, get all the respect. They get all the credit, and I'm just so sick. Still have yet to see a good, solid music festival that wasn't about greed, you know. And unfortunately, I've spent parts of my life promoting some of these music festivals. You know, it sucks. It is what it is. I mean, Sound Path to Freedom was a decent one recently, the recent music festival that popped up. But I don't know much about that. I wasn't there in person. I didn't go to that one. I was in Northern Indiana when Sound Path to Music Festival. But again, even with that music festival, it's very greedy, right? They had Sound Path to Freedom. They had all of the live streams posted for absolutely free after the festival, after the fact of the festival, so you can go back and check it out. I was using those festivals to go back and check it out. I was playing music during my book reviews during some of those. And then all of a sudden, of course, they took it down. They took down all the live streams. They took it down and they were charging money. It's the same exact shit, same old fucking story of greed. It's exactly what Penny Rumbod said. Like, once upon a time, it's how the fairy story goes, you know? Continuing on, I love this next sentence. Let me just, this vape is almost gone. Actually, it is gone. Continuing on, actually, the next sentence secures exactly everything how I feel about modern day music festivals. The truth is, back to the book, the truth is, there was one thing that certainly wasn't free, the entrance fee. Exactly. Every single music festival there's always an entry fee. There's always a donation fee, and God forbid, if you don't donate, they're going to be watching you like a hawk. They're going to be watching to see if you're bringing in rum or flask, or they're seeing if you're smoking anything you shouldn't be. They're going to be, I swear, every single time, I'm not over-exaggerating, they're going to be watching you like a hawk, and if you are doing anything that can incriminate yourself, they will use it against you and kick you out of the music festival, absolutely every time. You're under scrutiny. If you don't get that donation fee, you know, put that donation in the jar. Many of the clashes between the authorities and the youth movement in the late 60s and early 70s were, broadly speaking, of a political nature. Leftist platforms for social discontent rather than anarchic demands by individuals for the right to live their own lives. Oh, and actually, I have to give another shitty shout-out. Put another festival under scrutiny that always brags about quote-unquote community, but then they don't live by it. They don't practice what they preach in any fucking capacity. The Bloodline Festival, which takes place here at the Well in Northern Indiana, South Bend, Indiana. It's called the Bloodline Festival. It's a total fucking joke. They promote unity. They promote community. They promote all this, you know, virtue signaling bullshit, but they actually don't practice what they preach in any fucking capacity. I've volunteered at the Well multiple times. I've volunteered there for almost a year. I've worked there. I've volunteered there. I've played there. They are a greedy ass fucking venue, and I'm sick of them. I don't like them. Another one of those, you know, throw them under. That's just how the fairy story tale goes, you know. Increasingly, anarchists sought the right to be able to celebrate their ideas away from both leftist propaganda and capitalist exploitation. It was from this desire that the concept of free festivals was born. The free festivals were to become an anarchist expression of freedom, as opposed to socialist demonstrations against oppression or capitalist opportunities for exploitation. As such, they presented the authorities with a new problem. How do you stop people having fun? The answer was horribly predictable. Stamp on them. Windsor Park is one of Her Majesty's many back gardens, and when the hippies rather foolishly decided that it was an ideal state for a free festival, she was not amused. Notwithstanding, the first Windsor Free was a reasonably quiet affair, and the authorities had kept a low profile. Next year, things were very different. The Queen's unwanted guests were forcibly removed by the police, and the royal corgis were, no doubt, suitably relieved. At the front of their clashing forces that year, dressed variously in nothing or a pair of faded jeans and a brightly embroidered shirt, emblazoned with the simple message, Hope, was Phil Russell, a.k.a. Wally Hope. He danced among the rows of police, asking, "What kind of gentleman are you?" or mocking, "What kind of gentlemen you are." The boys in blue were in fact men, and they were neither kind nor gentle. They never are. Sorry excuses of men, little order-following cowards. Wally came away from Windsor disturbed. He loathed violence and was sickened by what he had seen. Love, peace, hope. It was shortly after this that we first met. For many years, I had been running an opera house. I was fortunate enough to have found a large country house at a very low rent, and felt that I wanted to share my luck. This is the famous Crass house that is in the documentary. There is no authority but yourself. I love this house. It's a beautiful property. Beautiful story about what Penny did with this property. I highly recommend the documentary. There is no authority there is no authority but yourself. It's you can watch it for free on YouTube as of right now. Last time I checked, I don't know. It should still be up for free, but I'll leave a link into these descriptions of the book whenever I get the chance. I wanted to share my luck. I wanted to create a place where people could get together to work and live in a creative atmosphere rather than a stifling, inward-looking family environment in which most of us had been brought up. Within weeks of opening the doors, people started turning up out of nowhere. Pretty soon, we were a functioning community. It was inevitable then that somebody like Wally would eventually pass our way. Wally was a smiling, bronze hippie warrior. That's kind of funny. His eyes were the color of the blue skies that he loved. His neatly cut hair was the gold of the sun that he worshipped. He was proud and upright, anarchistic and wild, pensive and poetic. His ideas were a strange mixture of the thinking of the peoples whom he had admired and amongst whom he had lived. The dancing Arabs, the peasant Cypriots, the noble Maasai, the silent and sad North American Indians, for whom he felt a particular closeness of spirit. The Northern American Indians regarded the land upon which they lived in much the way that we regarded the air that we breathe, as something that could not be owned. How could anyone claim to have ownership of something that constantly grows and changes? However, in their greed for land, white settlers made exactly those claims, and the native Indians were quickly and savagely reduced to nothing more than prisoners in the concentration camps that the American government laughingly called reservations. The earth was created by the assistance of the sun, and it should be left as it was. The country was made without barriers, and it is no man's business to divide it. I see the whites all over the country gaining wealth, and see their desire to give us lands which are worthless. The earth and myself are of one mind. The measure of the land and the measure of our bodies are the same. That's a quote from an American Indian describes his feeling for land. Oppression of what remains of the American Indian peoples continues to this day. Yes, it does. They are forced to live at the arse end of society that has grown rich on the exploitations of their lands. Areas that one time the U.S. government considered worthless and therefore suitable for reservations are, in the event of valuable minerals being found on them, forcibly reclaimed. Yeah, let's talk about no dapple. Meanwhile, the native peoples are resettled on still more worthless ground. A whole race of people have been made homeless in their own homeland. Before I read this quote, I'm going to use the restroom and get some water, and then I'm going to do a quick Wikipedia reading of the no dapple situation that happened in Colorado, because it goes perfect, right in line with exactly with what Penny is saying right now. And I'm going to get up and move spots, go to the tavern. All right, I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, are we back? Are we back here? Oh, what's going on here, camera? What's going on here, camera? There we go. There we are. All right. Squirt dog, stop eating butt back there. Squirt dog. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. So I'm going to do a quick Wikipedia search. Dakota Access Pipeline protests. And now these were brutal. And I know people seem to largely forget about these types of things, which is understandable because the government and the media just constantly brushes them under the rug and brings us new problems, exactly like what's going on right now with psychopath Trump launching missiles on innocent people. The Dakota Access Pipeline protest, this is from Wikipedia, or the Standing Rock protest, also known as hashtag #NoDAPL, were a series of grassroots Native American protests against the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline in the northern United States that began in April 2016. Protests ended on February 23, 2017, when National Guard and law enforcement officers evicted the last of the remaining protesters. Exactly what was written in this book, The Last of the Hippies, in 1982. Exactly what was written in this book. Like I said, and I'm going to keep saying that this book has aged flawlessly. And the fact that people don't read these books or even, let alone read them, but fucking talk about them and bring them up during, and talk about them to their family members, talk about them to individual family members, let alone just, bringing it up at Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners. This is deplorable. We are literally repeating history. I don't know how many times I have to say that. It makes me so frustrated and upset. Protests ended in February 23rd, 2017, when National Guard and law enforcement officers evicted the last remaining protesters. Ridiculous. Yeah, so it didn't even end. The protest didn't end. The protesters just got evicted by big brother authority, of course. That's how the story always ends. The pipeline runs from the Bakken oil fields in western North Dakota to southern Illinois, crossing beneath the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, as well as under part of Lake Oahe, near the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. Many members of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and surrounding communities consider the pipeline to be a serious threat to the region's water. The construction also directly threatens ancient burial grounds and cultural sites of historical importance. Now, I'm not going to read everything. But, this is an ongoing problem. This is, it's still a lawsuit. I mean, there's a lawsuit in 2019. In 2025, a North Dakota jury ordered Greenpeace USA and affiliate entities, including Greenpeace Fund and Greenpeace International, to pay $666.8 million in damages to pipeline developer Energy Transfer, following a lawsuit related to 2016 to 2017 Dakota Access Pipeline protests near Standing Rock. See, and that's a funny number. Why is this guy demanding $666.8 million? And see, 2020, that was in 2025. It's literally still to this day going on, and we have no idea. It's deplorable. And like it said, the protesters were just merely relocated. The pipeline was still built, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it was still built. Yes, we know that when you come, we die. An American Indian describes his feelings for white men. Wally had traveled the world and met fellow thinkers in every place that he had stopped, but always he had returned to England. Perhaps it was his love of the mythical past, King Arthur and his knights, that brought him back, or perhaps he felt as I do, that real change can only be effected in the place that you most understand, home. Yes, that's also another reason why I felt like I came back here to the Bender City, because yeah, part of me deep down feels that same sentiment. The real change can only be effected in the place that you most understand, home. Wally could talk and talk and talk. Half of what he spoke about seemed like pure fantasy. The other half like pure poetry. He was gifted with a strange kind of magic. One day in our garden, it was early summer, he conjured up a snowstorm. Huge white flakes settling amongst the daisies on the lawn. Another time he created a multi-rainbow sky. It was as if he put a cut up. It was this if it was as if he had cut up a rainbow and thrown the pieces into the air, where they hung in a strange, random patterns. On reflection, it seems unbelievable, but all the same, I can remember both occasions vividly. On our first meeting, Wally described Windsor Free and other gatherings that he had attended, not particularly liking crowds. I had always chosen to avoid festivals, so my knowledge of them was very limited. Wally outlined their history and then went on to detail his ideas for the golden future. He proceeded to unfold what seemed to me to be a ludicrous plan, but he wanted to claim back Stonehenge, a place that he regarded as sacred to the people and stolen by the government. Yeah, one of the many places stolen by the government, right, Wally? He wanted to make it into a site for free festivals, free music, free space, free mind. At least that, like happily ever after, is how the fairy story goes. We're on page 47, about to hit page 48. Let me get a little bit of water here. It is said that none of the freedom was evident 10 years later when Crass, the band of which I was a founding member, attempted to play at the Stonehenge Free Festival. Since Wally's death, it had been a dream that one day I might play the festival as a kind of memorial to him. In 1980, I had the band and the opportunity to do it. By then, Crass was enjoying quite a degree of notoriety, and our presence at Stonehenge attracted several hundred punks to whom the festival scene was a novelty. They, in turn, attracted interest from various factions to whom punk was equally new. Initially, the atmosphere seemed relaxed, and as dusk fell, thousands of people gathered around the stage to listen to the night's music. Suddenly, for no apparent reason, a group of bikers stormed the stage, saying that they were not going to tolerate punks at their festival. Gosh. What followed was one of the most violent and frightening experiences of my life. Bikers armed with bottles, chains, and clubs stalked around the site, viciously attacking any punk they set eyes on. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to escape to. Although the night we attempted to protect ourselves and other terrified punks from the mindless violence, there were screams of terror as people were dragged off into the darkness to be given lessons in peace and love. It was hopeless trying to save anyone, because in the blackness of the night, they were almost impossible to find. Meanwhile, the predominantly hippie gathering, lost in the soft blur of a stone reality, remained oblivious to our fate. Weeks later, a hippie news sheet defended the bikers. Of course the news defended the bikers. Just like what happened during the Rolling Stones event. The infamous Rolling Stones stabbing. Now look up at the Rolling Stones concert where the Hells Angels, which Hells Angels is funny thing, is predominantly they have quite a presence here in South Bend, Indiana. The Hells Angels do, still to this day. And the Hells Angels were hired to do security at a Rolling Stones concert, and the Hells Angel, I think they stabbed a black kid. They definitely stabbed somebody got stabbed, and I think the kid died from the Hells Angels, who were hired as security for some reason. The Rolling Stones hired the Hells Angels for security. For some reason. Make it make sense. I still don't understand it either. Meanwhile, the predominantly hippie gathering, lost soft blur stone reality, remained oblivious to our fate. Weeks later, a hippie news sheet defended the bikers, saying that they were an anarchist group who had misunderstood our motives. Wow. They're always labeled anarchists. Some misunderstanding, some anarchists. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Penny. Some anarchists indeed. Those fake-ass anarchists. Those aren't real anarchists. If Wally and the first Stonehenge festivals were my first flirtations with real hippie culture, this was probably my last. Burnt-out hippies were a common phenomenon in the early 70s. Lost souls whose brains were governed more by dope and acid than by common sense. Yeah, still to this day. Including the fake-ass punks governed by dope and acid. They were generally a bore, waffling on about how things were going to be, whilst making no effort whatsoever to work towards that end, or, indeed, any end whatsoever. For all of his strange ideas, Wally seemed different. To him, drugs were not something to drop out with, but a communion with a reality of color and hope when he actively brought back into the world of greatness and despair. Yeah, this reminds me, sorry, I just have to bring this up, another distraction. When I lived in Parkersburg, West Virginia, like last year, or last winter, yeah, it was this past winter, before this past winter, because it is now, the date today is March 8th, 2026. So yeah, when I lived in Parkersburg, West Virginia, I went to a fake-ass punk party. Because everybody's like, oh, it's a punk party. And this fucking fat, overweight loser he sold drugs to the community. He went to the gas station and bought like whippets. He bought like a air helium thing. And this guy, I don't know if he was selling helium hits or just giving them out. Either way, he bought helium at a gas station and then went to this party and like was fucking having everybody started doing helium. The party was super lame. There was like mini ramps in the garage, but of course everybody was just sitting on the mini ramps and drinking beer and using the mini ramps as as a spot to sit. And me being like a shy, I like to consider myself to not be an asshole human being, so I was like a shy, not asshole. There were some young kids sitting on the mini ramp, and I wanted to skate so bad, but I mean, we only stayed there for like 20 minutes. The only reason I wanted to go to this dumbass party is because I just wanted to skate. I knew he had a mini ramp in the garage, and it was around wintertime. No, it was for Halloween. It was a costume party. So I went as Heroin Bob Ross. That was my costume because I got the Heroin Bob jacket from SLC Punk that I got for my birthday last year, or no, a few years ago now, when I first became a bachelor. I bought that jacket. Awesome jacket, by the way, still have it. But yeah, fucking lame party filled with fake ass punks. I don't even know why. But this is what, like, yeah, these fake ass hippies, these fake ass drunks, they just want to do drugs. They just want to tune in and they don't want to tune in and drop out, whatever that Timothy Leary. And it just makes me sick. Like, you guys have nothing better to do. You guys can't have deep conversations and maybe even create a podcast. I know, like, the joke is we need electricians, not podcasters, or like we need electricians, not SoundCloud rappers. I hate that. That joke is so stupid. If you want to be creative, go out there and make yourself a hip hop song, dude. Go out there and write a song. Stop going to the party and wasting your creative ability. You're wasting your talent. Or you might have an untapped talent. How are you going to find your untapped talent? By going in and out of parties, It makes me sick, dude. I've seen so many talented people over the years and throughout my life. So many talented musicians just throw their life away just by being self-indulgent. Amazing bands that could have went really far, where it's just, we're gonna break up because one guy just wants to get fucked up at every single show. One guy just wants to do lines off of chicks' tits at the, It's like, bro, you don't want to do anything with your life? You don't want to do anything cool, like inspire people? I don't understand it. I don't get it. Burnt out hippies were a common phenomenon in the early 70s. Lost souls whose brains were governed by more... Oh, yeah, I already read that. They were generally a bore, waffling on about how things were going to be, whilst making no effort whatsoever to work towards that end, or indeed any end whatsoever. Exactly. Still to this day, people just don't care. That's why I love this book. Again, it's it's aged so well. Like, I wish I had a laugh track. Okay, Henry, stop ranting and repeating yourself. But it really has. This book is aged phenomenally. Waffling on about how things are going to be whilst making no effort whatsoever to work towards that end, indeed any end whatsoever. For all his strange ideas, Wally seemed different. To him, drugs were not something to drop out with, but a communion with a reality of color and hope which he actively brought back into the world of grayness and despair. He used drugs carefully and creatively, not for escape, but to help realize a means of escape. In many respects, I could never have been described as a hippie. After the usual small amount of experimentation, I had rejected the use of drugs because I found that they confused my thoughts and interfered with my relationships. Yeah, that's very true. So very true. Equally, the house that I had set up had never been designed to act as a place where people could drop out. I wanted somewhere where people could drop in and realize that given their own time and space, they could actively create their own sense of purpose and, most importantly, their own lives. And this is the idea behind Skatopia, but again, it's just that same old fucking story, you know, like the Subhuman song. Speaking of punk rock, go look up the Subhuman song. Same old story. Because that is, again, that song has aged so gracefully. It's so true about how most of the people that most of the punk rockers here in South Bend that I used to hang out with, you know, like I said, most of these people who call themselves skinheads against racial prejudice, most of these fake ass fucking sharps voted Trump. So they say they're anti-racist, then you're going to vote for some racist asshole. You know, you're a bunch of fucking hypocrites. Grow the fuck up. I wanted to offer a place where people could be something that the system never allows them to be, themselves. In many respects, this was closer to anarchist traditions than to hippie ones. But inevitably, there was an interaction. I had opened up the house to all comers at a time when many others were doing the same. The so-called commune movement was the natural result of people like myself wishing to create lives of cooperation, understanding, and sharing. Individual housing is one of the most obvious causes for the desperate shortage of homes. Communal living is a practical solution to the problem. If we could learn to share our homes, maybe we could learn to share our world. Yes, that is very true. And now, I know if you follow the channel, everybody knows that I just kicked out an alcoholic, and I just got into a fight with my brother, who is a thieving, you know. You don't want to allow a thief or energy vampire into your house. As much as nice as that sounds, you know, if we could all learn to share our homes, maybe we could learn to share our world. Yeah, as nice as that sounds, a lot of people do fucking steal. A lot of people do not care about morality, and they will rob their own mothers. They don't give a shit. You know, because people's parents are just horrible. People's parents don't give a fuck. People's parents don't spend time with their children and teach them the difference between right and wrong behavior. People's parents don't spend time with them and watch documentaries with them or watch movies with them or teach them. If they do watch a movie with them, they don't teach their children and spend time with their children to explain why this bad guy in the Harry Potter movie is bad or explain why this person is good. They don't do any of that. It's just watch the movie. Oh, time to go home, have some ice cream on the way home, and then go back to bed. You know, don't spend any time with your children. In fact, to just give a tablet to your child. I've seen it so many times. And, you know, people look down on me for bitching about this type of stuff, and I don't have any kids, right? But this is why I don't have kids, because people in my generation, they just don't care. People my age don't care. It's the same thing. They just want to get fucked up, and they just want to go out and have fun. They want to go out to clubs and have fun. You know, people that's their quote-unquote escape. Either it's shopping and spending a shit ton of money, or going out to the bar and getting fucked up and spending a shit ton of money. And, like, flexing on each other, and, like, getting all dressed up to get fucked up, and then just to go out and get, you know, tore apart. It's so stupid. This generation is so materialistic, and then they look down on Christians, right? And Christians do the same thing. The whole point of going to church on Sunday is like a flex. It's like people go up and dress up and get so dressed up to go to church. And they're just flexing on each other. They don't care about morality. They don't care about truth. They don't care about each other. It's just putting their you know, private junk on the table, basically. And again, this is why people steal. People steal because, yeah, their parents don't spend time with them. They get traumatized, and I mean, I can go on for days. Catherine Waters. This is Catherine Waters. Her work is phenomenal. I love what Catherine Waters talks about. She's on the One Great Work Network. Communal living is a practical solution to the problem. If we could learn to share our homes, maybe we could learn to share our world. That is the first step towards a state of sanity. I mean, it's true, but, you know, people love to steal. I shared Wally's disgust with straight society, a society that puts more value on property than on people, that respects wealth more than it does wisdom. I supported his vision of a world where the people took back from the state what the state had stolen from the people. In that sense, squatting is every bit as much a political statement as it is a personal solution. Why should we have to pay for what is rightfully ours? Whose world is this? Maybe squatting Stonehenge wasn't such a bad idea after all. Yeah, and I've talked about this when I was younger, and I still want to do it. And it's not even, it has nothing to do with being younger. I still want to do this idea. I just want to get a big-ass group of people, 10, 12, 15 people, to make it a significant amount, and then everybody get a tent. Let's all go pitch a tent at a local park. And just make a little, non-violent protest. Let's go pitch a tent in a local park. And if people call the cops on us, just say, hey, we all work jobs. We all pay taxes. We're not causing anybody any harm. We're not causing anybody any violence. We're not over here getting fucked up. We're not sticking heroin needles in our arm like what most people do at parks, especially around here in northern Indiana. We're not doing any of this. And if you kick us off of this property, that goes to show how much of an immoral, order-following coward piece of fucking trash you are. Because you don't care about your community. You just care about the almighty dollar. You care about upholding man's law. You don't care about truth. You don't care about freedom. You don't care about your community. And period. End of story. And record it, right? Record the scene. But I don't know anybody. And I've played punk rock shows in Elkhart. I've played punk rock shows all over northern Indiana. These people say that they're punk rockers. But there's always an excuse. Oh, I can't do that. I have kids. Oh, I can't do that. What if I bring my kids and the kids get kicked out? What if the police, blah, blah, blah. There's always an excuse. You guys call yourselves rebels. You guys call yourself punk rockers. And if I did it myself and recorded it, guess what would happen? If I did it by myself, I'm going to get my ass kicked. If I recorded it, I guess it would be a statement. But, that's what would happen. If me as an individual pitched a tent at a park, I'm either going to get my ass kicked or I'm going to get kicked out. And I tried to do this at a local beach in Michigan. It was just me, my girlfriend at the time, and we had 2 dogs. I'm like, dude, we're staying the night here at this beach. Fuck them. Fuck off. And let's record it. But she was like, no, let's go. Henry, let's go. They're going to give us a ticket. I'm like, let them give us a ticket. I will fight it in court. I will go to court. And I will say this shit is bullshit. I'll call everybody out. I will go climb up the corporate bullshit corporation ladder of judges. I will say that is not my name. That is a representation of, but I have nobody to back me up. I have nobody to bail me out of jail if I do this. People don't give a fuck. People call themselves rebels. And then people say that they value freedom, and they do nothing to stand up against the state. All they do, in fact, they do quite the opposite. They bend over backwards to help the state out. It's fucking sickening. I shared Wally's disgust with straight society, a society that puts more value on property than on people, that respects wealth more than it does wisdom. I supported his vision of a world where the people took back from the state, which the state had stolen from the people. In that sense, squatting is every... Oh, I already read all that, sorry. Why should we have to pay for what is rightfully ours? Whose world is this? Maybe squatting Stonehenge wasn't such a bad idea after all. I'm glad I reread that. But, because it's like... It's so true. Exactly, just like the skinheads against racial prejudice who all voted Trump. And when I was on my way to the Skinhead Festival, that was a 12-hour drive. I left my girlfriend for a weekend, left my girlfriend and my dogs. I made about $30 at that show. Made about $30 or $40 playing going all the way to 12 hours to Connecticut to play a Skinhead Oi festival. But anyways, the whole 12-hour drive, all of these fake-ass punks, all these fake-ass skinheads against racial prejudice, were talking about why they voted Trump. I mean, it's fuck off. Fuck off. Yeah, nah, fuck off. You guys are fucking schizophrenic. You guys all have Stockholm Syndrome. Pull your heads out of your assholes, please. Do us all a favor. The lives of millions upon millions of people are run by a small handful of ruling elites who own all the wealth, all the land, and who have all of the control. We are expected to be grateful to them for the privilege of having them rule our lives. We are expected to be grateful for them for the privilege of paying them for the roof over our heads. We are expected to be grateful to them for the privilege of being slaves in their factories and offices, and for the privilege of accepting the miserable wages that they so resentfully dole out to us. We are expected to be grateful for the privilege of paying them their huge taxes so they can farther finance their oppression of us, the people. They grow richer at our expense, but we are expected to look up to them as examples of success. Finally, we are expected to be grateful to them for the privilege of fighting for them in their wars and killing other people like ourselves or being killed by other people like ourselves. We are expected to love, honor, and obey this wife-beater till death, quite probably premature do us part. In this particular marriage, divorce is a hard case to fight for. Do they owe us a living? Of course they fucking do. Steve Ignorant, singer of Crass. That was a quote from Steve Ignorant. Fucking love that song. Wally kept coming back to the house with new plans. His enthusiasm was infectious, and finally he was able to persuade me and my fellow residents to join the cause. We agreed to help him organize the first Stonehenge Festival, summer solstice, June 1974. Then called King Arthur with loud voice, where here before us the heathen hound who slew our ancestors, now march we to them. And when we come to them, myself foremost to all the fight I will begin. Brute Layamon, a quote from Brute Layamon. Oh, I'm getting so fired up, dude. Oh, like trying to losing my breath reading this book. It's so spot on. The information of this is so spot on. What Penny Rumbod wrote in 1982 is spot on, even in 2026. However many years later, it's insane. By the beginning of 1974, we had printed thousands of handouts and posters and had sent out hundreds of invitations to such varied celebrities as the Pope, the Duke of Edinburgh, the Beatles, the British Airwaves, air hostesses, and the hippies of Kathmandu. You know, I've done the same exact thing, promoting all these music festivals, promoting freedom under natural law, promoting it on YouTube, getting my voice out there, promoting it as many platforms as I possibly can without exhausting myself and making myself absolutely fucking insane. I've done the best I can promoting these festivals, and where has it gotten us? Where do we have freedom? Needless to say, not many of the invitees turned up on the appointed date, but Wally was happy enough with a motley crew of a few hundred hippies who did. Hell yeah, dude, that's awesome. For 9 weeks, Wally and those who were prepared to brave the increasingly wet summer held fort at the Old Stone Monument, watched in grown confusion by the Old Stone Face Monument keepers. Wood smoke curled into the damp night air, gray smoke against gray stones. Leaping flames illuminated the storytellers who sat rainbow splashes in the plain landscape, telling tales of how it was that this fire came to be lit in this place at this time here on our earth. Our generation is the best mass movement in history, experimenting with anything in our search for love and peace. Knowledge kicks religion, life, truth. Even if it leads us to our death, at least we are all trying together. Our temple is sound. We fight our battles with music, drums like thunder, cymbals like lightning, banks of electronic equipment like nuclear missiles of sound. We have guitars instead of Tommy guns. Phil Russell, 1974. Even if it leads us to our death. That's what Phil Russell said in 1974. And lead it to his death it did. I might have to cut it short. I don't know if I can make it to... Oh, we have 10 minutes to an hour, so I don't know if I can make it quite to an hour because I'm getting way too fired up. And I want to play some Gex. I think I might call off Crazy Life Stories. I might message Matt Bennett. Sorry, Matt Bennett. I'm just not feeling it tonight. I'm not feeling the Crazy Life Stories. I don't have any Crazy Life Stories to tell as of right now. So I gotta work early in the morning, painting a customer's garage to finish this job up with my aunt over the next 2 days. And she probably has more work, so I might be roofing which is, you know, kind of intimidating because roofing sucks. But hey, it's good money, and I could use it for sure. You know, always could use the spare cash, of course. Oh, but I am going to have to get a real job here soon. Can't keep doing the cashies like Mike Nolsky. Let me find my spot here. Okay, found it. Here we are. Let's keep going, and then I'll play Gex after this live stream, and then I'll have to upload after playing Gex, and then update all these live streams. Get there is no authority but yourself into these live stream descriptions. Make a playlist for these. Put all these Chautauquas on the same playlist together. You know, do all the computer work. Blah 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 blah. It's exhausting. Rock and roll and revolution day in, day out. The talk went on, the rain came down, and if this year there had only been a battered old cassette player to pump out the sounds, next year they'd do better. Eventually, the Department of the Environment, keepers of the old Stoneface Monument keepers, served the Wallies of Stonehenge notice to withdraw the government property. The various inhabitants... Ooh, excuse me. I had Little Caesars last night, and it was so freaking greasy. Now let's make it like I regretted it as soon as I got to the house. So greasy. Take it. Lost my spot. Sorry. The various inhabitants of the fort had agreed that should the authorities intervene, they would answer only to the name of Wally. The name originating from a dog lost at the Isle of Wight festival of many years back, when thousands of rock fans chanted "Wally, Wally, Wally" well into the night, until the poor mutt was found. Equally ludicrous were the surreal summonses served against Phil Wally, Sid Wally, Chris Wally, Starburst Wally, Willie Wally, and all the rest of the motley crew of the Wallies. It was a case of Wally here, Wally there, Wally almost everywhere, and it did much to set the scene for the absurd trial that followed in London's high courts. Fleet Street loved it. Of late, there hadn't been any suitably unpleasant murders, rapes, wars, or natural disasters with which to amuse readers, so the Wallies, which their leader Wally Hope, became this week's disposable stars. The grinning heroes appeared daily in the pages of the press, flashing peace signs and preaching the power of love next to the day's tits and bums. It was an old message in a new setting. Having lost the case, and had been ordered immediately to vacate the land, Wally jubilantly left the courtroom to face waiting reporters announcing, we have won, everybody loves us, we have won. Win or lose, everybody was certainly confused by Wally's somewhat disposable statement. All the same, for a day or two, the Wallies had been good copy, and in some respects, they had won. They had moved on, but there was always next year to think about. A tradition had been born. A tradition which was to become legendary within the history of free festivals. But Wally Hope had pushed a thorn into the side of the system, and the system wasn't going to let him get away with it again. From Stonehenge, the retreating Wallies moved to Windsor. This year, the festival had attacked the biggest gathering ever. Tens of thousands of people had come to ensure that Her Royal Majesty remained unamused, and she, in turn, was waiting in the guise of a massive police presence. Tension between the two factions existed from the very start, and eventually things exploded when the police staged a vicious early morning attack on the sleeping festival goers. Of fucking course. The order following cowards always ruined the party. Hundreds of people were injured as the police randomly and brutally laid into anyone unlucky enough to be in their way. People were dragged. Oh, excuse me. People were dragged from their tents to be treated to a breakfast of boot and abuse. Protesting hippies were jostled away to waiting Black Marias to be insulted, intimidated, and beaten up and charged. ACAB, boys. While reveling over every moment of it, the media pretended to be shocked, and the government ordered a public inquiry, neither of which doing much to improve the condition of the hundreds of injured people. That's the end of page 55 of The Last of the Hippies. That's a great spot to start. I can only read so much of police brutality and state dissent and, you know, I can only stand to read so much of duress. Shout out to Mark Passio. I have to give a shout out to Mark Passio for making that presentation that he did called Two Masks, Same Face. That the most recent presentation that he did before the Shadowworks seminar. I can't imagine what he went through during the research of that presentation. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine the turmoil he must have felt. It's exhausting, man. It's exhausting. Yeah, I'm not gonna do crazy life stories tonight. And that's another way if you want to support the channel, if you like this content. Crazy Life Stories is my friend's podcast. He is gracious enough to have me as a co-host on Crazy Life Stories. You can find it on Spotify. We've been doing weekly episodes over on that podcast for years now. I also consider that to be a kind of a modern-day Chautauqua, where we just get together and we talk about what's going on throughout our life and, what's going on. There's a few episodes where I broke down the allegory of the Fallout TV show, which I could go way more in-depth on that. I really want to do a series, but, that's the whole thing. If you start one series and don't finish, that's like, I always want to start a series and then finish it, but I always get so many ideas, like with the allegory of Fallout, and I did a Fallout New Vegas review. When the first time I beat Fallout New Vegas, I did a review on that. I just talked to the camera. And I do put all this work, and people barely pay attention. It really sucks. And when people barely pay attention, you spend all this time and work and energy into this one video or into this one project, and nobody pays attention or cares or even shares it. It's exhausting. But anyways, we will continue with Last of the Hippies in the next modern day Chautauqua, maybe sometime throughout this week. Yeah, pretty sure. For sure, sometime throughout this week. It's St. Paddy's Day month, which is, I probably will have a St. Paddy's Day stream sometime during the month, probably before I go to Chicago or sometime I'll go to Chicago. And since I'm going to Chicago, I'm taking both cameras to Chicago, so there will be some videos on the Beagle Eye Vision YouTube channel, here on the Beagle Eye Vision YouTube channel, where, maybe I'll do another interview with Matt Bennett, and we'll see what happens. But either way, I want to record some songs in Chicago. I want to record, there's some various things I want to record. Looking forward to it. So there's going to be stuff happening on the Beagle Eye Vision Facebook page as well. I'll be posting some Chicago photos, retaking some Chicago photos. I'm going to be playing some Pokemon Go. I'm very, very, very excited. I'm going to be hunting Pokemon all over Chicago. Cannot wait. We're going to watch the Banshees. I'm going to sneak my camera into the show. Maybe I can try to get a quick interview. Or even if I could record some of their songs, record some of the Banshees songs, because as of right now, they have no recordings on their YouTube channel. The Banshees do have a YouTube channel, but they have no recordings on their YouTube channel, so I want to try to record some songs, sneak the camera in, see if I can get away with that. And it's going to slap the YouTube channel with copyright. I don't care. This channel isn't monetized. It never will be. Beagle Eye Visions will never make you subscribe or pay for a monthly subscription for members-only content. God, I hate that. But I will shill. If you want to support the channel, use code BeagleEyeVision at w.gg for 10% off your entire purchase. I need to order myself some WGGs. They have some new cups coming out. I'm running very low on W. It'll probably be gone after this week doing manual labor. The W will definitely be gone. running super low. I'm going to have to reorder some more of that. I have to pay more of my credit card off. I'm going to be working for, all the money I'm making this week is for money that I can spend in Chicago. So I have a good time. That's my, as I get older, I only have like one yearly event where it's like my big hurrah. And then other than that, it's like back to the YouTube, back to the Chautauqua, back to the book reviews, back to the grind. So another way you can support the channel, look up, you can send money directly to Cash App, Beagle Eye. I accept any donations, of course. Anything helps. I really want to get a brand new computer this year. And I'm going to stream Gex. So we're starting Gex number 2 in the trilogy right after this. It'll take 10-minute break. Actually, speaking of playing guitar in Chicago, actually, should I take my guitar? No, probably not. I mean, maybe. It's just a lot of extra stuff to carry on the train. I might actually take my guitar. Or I might just record the song before I leave. I don't know. Who knows? But anyways, more content coming for sure. I'm going to be live streaming right after this. We're going to get into some Gex. Get some more caffeine. I'm going to get caffeinated to play some Gex. Hanging out with the Beagles today. Pickle's back in town after going out of town in Georgia. And thank you so much if you made it this far. I really appreciate you. Made it over an hour now. Matt Bennett would be proud. All right, so give you the old Midwest goodbye. Stay tuned. Stay gold. Like, subscribe, and share. You guys know I hate saying that, but please share it. Please share the Chautauqua. Share the playlist. Check out all the other playlists that I have on this channel. Stay tuned. Stay gold, everybody. Beagle Eye Vision signing off.